Hey everyone, my name is Shelby Bowen. Welcome back to the YouTube channel. Today we are talking about people pleasing. We're talking about why people pleasing is a prominent coping mechanism in the church, because that's what it is. It's a coping mechanism. So today we're going to break down why people pleasing is so prominent in toxic religious environments. In a healthy church, you're not going to see this kind of behavior perpetuated, but in toxic religious environments, women especially are conditioned into being people pleasers. So that's what we're talking about in today's video. Make sure you like and subscribe to this YouTube channel for all of the content to come that is just like this. I am a Christian life coach. If you want more information on working with me one-on-one, how to break out of these habits, out of these coping mechanisms such as people pleasing, then I will put my information on the screen and link it down below. So let's go ahead and jump into today's video. In the church and in ministry settings, servitude is a big aspect of ministry life. And if you've been a part of a ministry, if you've ever worked for a church or been involved in serving in a church, then you know that. And there's nothing wrong with servitude. But there's an aspect of servitude where we want to be liked. We want the people around us to like us. But when it comes to unhealthy church environments and you have narcissistic leaders within that church setting, they typically want people pleasers around them because those are people who are easy to manipulate. Those are people who lack boundaries, who will say yes to whatever they ask. They are the yes men or women within that church setting who kind of perpetuate again the narcissistic behavior because they think that they are doing a good thing, that by serving and doing whatever the pastor or his family or the people in the hierarchy of the church want, that they are doing something for God. But we're going to break down today why that is inaccurate, why this is a coping mechanism that we all need to get rid of, and why so many of us have been in that place. And a lot of people pleasing can come from childhood wounds. When you grow up and you had a need to be loved and accepted and feel belonging, and something happened to where you were yourself and you didn't feel belonging. That something happened to you where because you expressed yourself how God intended for you to be, maybe you were bullied, maybe your family treated you poorly because of just your personality traits. And so then you started to adopt people-pleasing behavior to soothe you the next time that you were felt in danger, because that's what our bodies do. We adopt these coping mechanisms so that we don't feel like we're in danger again. So we don't put ourselves into that vulnerable behavior again, so that we don't risk danger. And so we're going to be breaking down, what is a people pleaser? How do you identify what people pleasing is? In a minute, I'm going to list off some checklists, some points where you can decide if you do these things kind of as indicators of people pleasing, so we can get a better assessment of, hey, I recognize I'm doing this, I recognize this behavior, so now I know I need to break free from that. But before we get into it, and I know this is going to be hard to hear, but people pleasing is deceptive. And you might feel like, oh, but I'm just doing all of these things for other people. But it's deceptive because it's dishonest. And it's dishonest because you're not communicating what you need, what your needs are, what you need from other people. You're not communicating your boundaries, and you're putting on a mask so that you can find acceptance and approval from other people. And that's something that's not fair to them, and it's not fair to us as well. People pleasing is also anxiety inducing because we feel really anxious. If somebody asks us to do something, then we want to do whatever we can to please them, and we're constantly on edge. How did somebody perceive what I said? How did they perceive my reaction to their news? How did they perceive my emotion in this specific incident and how I responded in that conversation? I mean, it is constantly replaying over and over again the conversations we have day to day in our mind, and that is exhausting, and it's so much anxiety within that mindset. And it's that's not a fun mind to live in. And I've been there and I get it, because people pleasing is something that I've had to work through and heal a lot within myself. And so it also builds a lot of resentment, because when you're not communicating to somebody that you feel overextended, if you're not communicating to somebody that your boundaries have been pushed, they're not going to know. We are all busy people. We all have a lot going on in our lives, and we can't all be very attuned to the needs of other people when they're not communicating to them. If somebody who is close to me in my life communicates to me, hey, these are my boundaries and these are my needs, then it is going to be very easy for me to respect those things and for me to honor them in that way, to make sure that I'm not doing anything to overstep their needs or their boundaries. But when we don't communicate those things and we have resentment that builds up, then it often creates these hostile relationships where maybe you feel like you're constantly losing friends and you're never staying in connection with people for long periods of time. And there's always these fallouts in these relationships you have. Could it be that there's been some resentment built up, whether from you or from them, because of people pleasing? So let's jump into that checklist. I'm going to read some things off, and you can go ahead and determine if these are things that you find yourself doing. Do you feel guilty for saying no? Do you feel like you have to apologize all the time? Do you feel bad when your choices make other people sad or mad? Do you believe it is your Christian duty to please your church leaders or your pastor? What about your family members, your extended family members, and your friends? Do you worry about what others will think of you if you make a decision that they don't agree with? Do you throw yourself under the bus to keep other people satisfied and placated? Do you worry that perhaps people only love you for what you can give them rather than who you are? That is a really, really big one and an important one to identify. Do you define yourself by what other people say about you? Think about it. Think through your life. It's really easy for us to be hung up. I mean, I can tell you when I was a little girl, I had a hard time keeping weight on, which I wish now I had that today. But I remember being a little girl and I was so insecure about the fact that I just would eat so much food and I was a beanpole. And I remember this boy saying, "Oh, you look like you should be in a concentration camp." And I was in middle school, and tell me how I still remember that to this day, because those things impact us so much. And when we're young and when our identity is still very fragile because we haven't learned who we are in Christ, then those things really persuade our mind to believe that that is who we are, that we're somebody who other people look at as too skinny or maybe too fat or too, many freckles or hair that they don't like, hair that's too curly or too straight. And we take those things on as our identity. So again, and we'll talk about how much people pleasing is correlated with low self-esteem in a little bit. I'll say a few more. Are you confused by what is right or wrong? This is a big one in the church and toxic religious environments. Again, healthy churches won't make you feel this way. Do you require validation for your choices from an authority figure? Also a really important one to ask. So if you identified yourself in those things and you're like, oh my gosh, people pleasing is a form of deception. I see myself in that. Oh my gosh, I'm being deceptive. It's okay. All right, we're going to pause there because the last thing that you need to do to heal and to move forward is to put shame and blame on yourself. So we're going to take a minute and give ourselves a little bit of grace, okay? We've been through hard things. Life is not easy. You, like me, and like all of us, have been through really challenging things in our life. And because of that, we have adopted these coping mechanisms to soothe us and to keep us away from what we perceive as a threat or danger. So understand that. Give yourself, or maybe somebody else in your life who you recognize as a people pleaser, a little bit of understanding in that. Hey, my environment nurtured that coping mechanism inside of me. And then we want to recognize that as human beings, we all crave relationships that are curious, that are honest, that are compassionate, that are empathetic, that are vulnerable. And we can't extend that to other people if we don't extend that to ourselves. In Christian life, that phrase that, you have to love, or we get, have the opportunity really to love other people as you love yourself. And within that, we focus so much on the loving other people, which is great. God calls us to love Him and to love other people well. But we forget that how can we truly love someone well if we don't love ourselves well? And so much of people pleasing is not loving ourselves well. And if you are a part of a church environment that is festering that coping mechanism within you, that you have to do and please to gain favor from God or favor from church leadership, then I would kindly tell you should probably get out of that environment, because it's not going to be healthy for you long term. And it is especially unhelpful in a marriage to have that same mindset that all I am is a servant to my husband. I mean, no, we are so much more than that. I mean, I gladly submit to my husband. I don't think, sometimes submitting in the Christian world has these negative connotations, but finding a man who I love my husband so much. It is my honor to be able to submit to him, but it doesn't feel like submission. It doesn't feel like I'm like lowering myself underneath him, and he never does make me feel like I should rid my boundaries to please him however he needs. Is a healthy marriage, a healthy relationship looks like serving one another. It looks like bringing hardships to each other to work out together, hearing each other's opinion. And at the end of the day, if it's a big life decision, I will tell my husband how I feel. He listens to how I feel. We'll come to a decision together. If we're really at an impasse, I'll just trust that, he's the head of our household, and however God's leading him in that decision, I'll just trust that, and we'll learn and we'll grow from it together. But never has it felt like I am a lesser than person in this marriage, nor should it feel like that for yours, nor should it feel like that in a church environment. At the end of the day, your pastor, he's your shepherd. I mean, Christ's model of leadership is servitude, and there should never be a church environment where the pastor is so untouchable, so unreachable, that everyone has to succumb to his will, that you have rid yourself of all boundaries and you are not able to say no when your mental, emotional, and spiritual health is at risk. So let's talk a little bit about confidence. And, it's funny because I was talking about this with my husband actually, and we were talking about previous relationships we've both had in the past and how we're just both thankful to be with somebody, to have each other. And we're both confident in who God created us to be. Me and my husband both have a lot of security in ourselves, a lot of security in who God created us to be, and a lot of, confidence in one another. And I know that has helped us so much in our marriage so far, because insecurities can cause a lot of issues in marriage. People pleasing at the end of the day can be rooted in a lot of self-esteem problems, that you're seeking for approval from other people because deep down you don't like who you are. You don't like the person that you see in the mirror. And confidence, I'm going to tell you this, is not putting a mask on. Confidence is not this social media world we live in where look at me in my highlight reel and how great I am. That's not confidence. That's not genuine confidence. Confidence isn't, being a Victoria's Secret model walking down a runway. I mean, you could have that and still be the most insecure person in the world. So none of those things are true confidence. And so what does it mean to be confident? Well, it is, hey, these are my cards. This is my deck of cards. This is who I am. This is who God created me to be. This is what I'm passionate about in my life. This is my personality. This is who I am. And if you don't like it, that's okay. That's not going to move me. I like it. I like my deck of cards. I like who I am. I like what I'm passionate about. I like, my little personality quirks and traits. And if you don't, then that's cool. You're just not somebody who's meant to be part of my life, part of my circle. And that would save us so much time in life and relationships, that if we recognized if someone didn't like who we are, that's not on you. That's just not somebody you need in your life, and it'll save you the time of wasting your energy on that person, and then you'll just find the people who are for you. And I'll tell you this about posting online, posting on social media, doing stuff like this. There's moments I have where it's like I meet someone, they're like, what do you do? And I'm like, I am a life coach and I help people heal from spiritual abuse. And there was a moment where I'm like, oh my gosh, these people are gonna think I'm crazy. And then I realized, the amount of people who think that is so unique and I'm needed and amazing. And then I've never actually had anybody say anything negative to my face. I mean, online, the keyboard warriors for sure. But at the end of the day, if they did, why would I want to surround myself with somebody who thought that I was weird or odd for doing this? Wouldn't you rather surround yourself with people who either do the same things you do, or even if they don't, uplift and encourage the things that you do, because that's genuine friends. That's genuine people you want in your life. And so stop wasting your time trying to please people who at the end of the day aren't for you. They're not the people you want in your life. You're wasting your energy pleasing them, setting your boundaries aside and doing whatever they want when they're not even the people that are meant to be with you. And so, yeah, let's just stop doing that, And I know it's easier said than done. And when we get to the root of people pleasing, it's where did that wound come in? Where did I adopt that wound? And sometimes we have to go back through our lives. We have to kind of build this timeline of events where we go back in history and we figure out, where in my life did I adopt this? What was the message I had about myself in that moment? What was the emotion I felt? And what was the behavior I adopted from that event? And then we start to see this cycle that's been following us through our life. Then we can see where we need to heal and just understand that, you know what? If this is who God created me to be, then that's pretty freaking awesome. And if someone else doesn't see that, it's just their problem. It is not mine. It is not your problem either to interpret someone's response and emotion to everything you do or say. That is so exhausting. If you leave a party, if you leave a gathering, if you leave a networking event, you're constantly thinking about how someone perceived what you had to say, stop. It's none of your business how they perceived it. If they took something a wrong way, then that's up to them to come to you to have that kind of conversation. That's not up to you to filter yourself or dim your light or do anything else because you're so concerned about what someone else thinks. I mean, what someone else's opinion of you is none of your business. What someone says about you behind your back is none of your business. Your business is you. Your business is healing and growing and focusing on who's God called you to be, and finding the people throughout life that can support that bring that out in you, that encourage you in that. So let's go into how we break free from people pleasing. How do we overcome that? Well, the first thing is building that trust back within yourself, because we're afraid that somebody else is going to do to us what that person did in the past, whether it was bullying or whatever it was. We're worried that's going to happen again. But if you build the trust back up within yourself enough to know that you aren't going to let somebody harm you in that way again, because you're going to see the red flags before the way that you didn't before, then you're going to trust yourself enough to know that you'll know. I mean, like, look, there are certain people in my life that I keep them here. They're in my life because I enjoy spending time with them, but at the end of the day, I know from what I've seen from them that I don't trust them to get in here, right? And so because of that, we hang out, we talk, they share probably a lot more with me, and they trust that I am, compassionate with their emotions and experiences, but I don't give that in return because I know that that can't be trusted with them, and that's okay. You can love people in different areas from where they're at and just not give them that piece of you, that really deep, vulnerable part of you, because you're protecting yourself. And so it's noticing these red flags. It's noticing the things in people, like, if you're around people who gossip and talk crap about people all the time, then they're going to do that about you too. If you're around people who you notice them like always complimenting other people, always saying nice things about other people, then they're going to do that to you too. It's not, super hard. We just watch, pay attention to how people act and how they respond. If someone shows you who they are, believe it, trust them, because they're not lying. So this next thing is understanding that you're not in control of other people's thoughts, what we said. And the last part is learning to see yourself in the way that God sees you, to build respect for yourself. When you respect yourself, you won't let someone push your boundaries again. Gosh, when I think back to when I worked for the ministry, where I went through a lot of harm, I can recognize I had no boundaries. Actually, there was not a one boundary. And I had no respect for myself. And now I do. Now I would never put myself in the position again to be harmed the way I was. And, that's how I teach my clients, how building that respect enough within yourself that you're never going to take that again. And when you've been through trauma, when you've been through really hard things, a lot of that stuff's going to repulse you in the future anyway. And that's why, when you're in spiritually abusive environments and you can see the fog and the fog screen, the mirrors, whatever you call it, it really repulses you going forward in the future, and you really don't want anything to do with it. And so you just find a lot more authentic environments. And the same thing goes with relationships. You notice those things that those people did, and it repulses you so much that you just don't surround yourself with it anymore, because you respect yourself enough now. You've healed. You've put in the work. You have taking your thoughts captive, rewired those negative thought patterns. You've healed, you've worked with a coach, you've worked with a therapist, and you respect yourself enough that you're not going to let someone bring you back down, because you know how hard you've worked to get to the place where you are today. And that is understanding who God created you to be, and that's somebody who deserves love, somebody who deserves respect, somebody who deserves to be treated with kindness and compassion, the way that you would treat other people. And so that takes me in to the final part of this video today, which is, what should we look like? We should look like people who have healthy boundaries. We should look like people who take responsibility for ourselves, people who take responsibilities for our actions, people who take responsibility for the good things we do and the bad things that we do, and we learn from those, and we take responsibility, we ask for forgiveness, we repent, and we move forward. We look like people who steward our bodies, our boundaries, our emotional health, our physical health, our spiritual health, our resources. We are people who live authentic lives in alignment with our morals, right? So if you're a Christian and you're like, these are my morals that I have, then you live a life that's authentic to that. We look like people who have respect for others, as well as people who have respect for ourselves, which we already talked about. We look like people who don't try to control the people around us and who aren't controlled by the people around us. No one wants to be that person that's really controlling of their friends and of the people. You can't do this, or you can't do that, or you're not allowed to wear this, or you're not allowed to go here. I mean, even in a marriage, you don't want to be the controlling spouse. I mean, it is, it's unattractive. Honestly, it is unattractive, and it's not healthy, and it's usually rooted in a lot of insecurity. So we don't want to be that. We want to be like somebody that controls ourself, right? You focus on you. You focus on what's going on with you. And I wish I could say that to all the keyboard warriors out there. Like, focus on yourself. Hey, I'm all about a healthy, productive debate or conversation, but just the negativity that we spew out, I mean, I'm not here for it within the church. Control yourself, control your emotions, control your behaviors. We look like people who allow the space for other people to be who they are. I have so many different friends or people in my life who just show up differently than I do. Maybe they're more outgoing than I am. I'm actually kind of an introvert. And so maybe I have certain people in my life who are really outgoing, and they love to, not that they're intentionally trying to be the center of attention, but they like that. They like being out and putting on a show in a healthy way, and I love them for it. Do it. Be you. Like, I am confident in who I am, like, that I don't like being the center of attention. I don't want to be. I like being me, kind of observing, watching, hanging around, like, chatting. Like, I go to the networking events for my husband. You'll find me chatting with the same person all night long in the corner, like, and I'll have had the best time. I don't want to go bouncing around from people to people. It's not who I am, but I love that about myself. I'm not trying to be anybody else. We lastly look like people who distance ourselves from toxic behavior. Respect somebody. You can have family members even that you love, but you love them from a distance. God calls us to love people, but not at the expense of ourselves, not at the expense of our own health. You can love somebody enough to know that you aren't going to put up with their behavior, because at the end of the day, that's not love. If you let someone treat you like crap in the name of I'm a Christian and I'm trying to put someone before myself, you're actually enabling bad behavior, and that's not love. Love is not letting someone treat you like crap. Love is voicing, hey, that's not right. I was actually kind of upset when you said that thing to me, and this is why it hurt my feelings. That's love. That's letting them know, I didn't really appreciate the way you said that, and that's helping them grow. That's giving them the opportunity to humble themselves, just as we all need to be humbled and learn from our experiences and grow. So I hope this has helped you take back some of the power, because with people pleasing, you're giving all your power away. And I want you to have that back. I want you to take it back, because that's how you're going to live a healthy life with God. That's how you're going to see his character and his true nature when you toss all of that out, when you heal and you see the life that he's actually called us to live, and it has nothing to do with any of that. So I hope this video has helped you. Again, if you would like to work with me one-on-one because you notice, hey, I think I need a little more help walking through and processing these things, my information's on the screen. It's also linked down below. We have a support group if you want to join people who are healing from spiritual abuse and toxic religious environments. That's also linked down below. But make sure you subscribe to this channel. I'll see you guys next time in the next video. See ya.